I do? Who do I look at?
Either one of us.
Either one of you?
Yep.
Okay, ready?
We're rolling.
All right, this is an interview in the Hampton Inn, Elmsford, New York, 29th of September 2004, approximately 9:15 a.m. Interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Jack Scarangella. I was born on August 3rd, 1923, which makes me 81, and I was born in the Bronx.
Okay, what was your educational... I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Want to finish?
No, I was just going to say the Bronx is part of New York City,
Okay.
one of the 5 boroughs.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
I was about to go to college when I was drafted, and so I was just a high school graduate. I guess I was about 18, and what I was doing when I was drafted, I was a driving instructor on 14th Street in Manhattan, one of the busiest places to start to teach people how to drive. But at any rate, I think I had my license for 6 months, and that's what I was doing when I was drafted.
Okay. Do you remember where you were and your reaction and how you heard about Pearl Harbor?
I was outside of my house, probably playing some ball with some of my friends when I heard about it. And of course, when you're 18, you don't get the full impact. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was only on radio, so you don't get the full impact of what happened.
Okay. When you were drafted, where did you go for your induction and where did you go for your basic training?
Fort Lee in New Jersey. And then we stayed in tents, and it was in the wintertime, I remember, and if that stove ever went out, it was pretty cold because I think it was February when I was drafted. It was pretty cold in the tent, and we were there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then they put us on a troop train, and we went out to California, which I found is a good place to do basic training. Mm-hmm. So we were out in the field, actually, in Los Angeles, and we didn't have I don't remember whether it was about 3 months of basic training.
Mm-hmm. Did you take any tests and receive any specialized training?
Not at that time.
Okay.
But we were placed in a searchlight outfit at the time because it was before radar, and so we actually was in a park in Englewood, and there was about 6 of us, and we lived in this little house in the park that served, I guess, as offices. And I don't know how good our meals were because we cooked them ourselves, but at any rate, we worked at night, just putting the lights on any planes that came across our territory and identified them as either friendly or unfriendly. Fortunately, there weren't any unfriendly planes during my tenure. Actually, we were in Searchlights for about 6 months, and then all of a sudden they became obsolete when radar came across, and that was the thing, of course, it was more effective in terms of identifying.
So there were 6 in your unit?
About 6, yeah. It was a small outfit, and most of them were Southerners.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you carry any kind of weapons or anything?
No, I may have had a rifle at the time. I guess everybody had a rifle, with the M1, I believe. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, it was a rather, kind of safe duty, mm-hmm. Unless they bombed the place. The Japanese came by and bombed, but they didn't. I don't think any of the cities along the West Coast were attacked by any Japanese planes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, after your assignment there, where were you sent?
After that, let's see, I was with a 90 millimeter outfit, and then I was in the communications aspect of that, and we moved to, I guess, the regional office, the regional headquarters in Culver City, but actually then I was the chauffeur driving officers around in a Jeep. That wasn't too bad because we were pretty close to Hollywood, and on on our leave we'd go to Hollywood and to I guess the canteen there, the famous stage door canteen. But Hollywood was a good town to go to on leave.
Did you get to see any celebrities while you were there?
We might have, but no one that made an indelible impression.
Okay. How long were you stationed in that area?
About 6 months, I think, and then we moved to Lawndale, California, which was again a small outfit, and I was sent to radio repair school at the University of California in Davis, California, which was just outside of Sacramento, and that was a 6-month course on fixing radios, military radios, and of course when I came back they put me back on the switchboard. So I didn't get any benefit, or the Army didn't get any benefit of my 6 months training, but I learned a little bit about radio repair.
Okay. So could you tell us about some of your other experiences then while you were out there?
Well, I put in for OCS and I was accepted, but then they apparently just eliminated the category that was going to move on to OCS. And then next thing I knew, I think we went to, we were in Fresno before we went to Camp Gordon. And when I was at Camp Gordon, some of our outfit went overseas, but I was either lucky or unlucky. I didn't get to go overseas, and I was in the MPs, but I was the company clerk at the time. I think I was one of the few people that could type.
How long were you there?
Camp Gordon, I about a year, I guess, and I was discharged from Camp Gordon when the war was over. As a matter of fact, I was able to, Camp Gordon was in Georgia. I was able to, when I was discharged, the Flying Tigers were buying some of the aircraft, and I got a ride to New York City on one of their planes. In fact, they even let me be at the controls for a while, just to bring it up and down. So, but it was my first airline experience, first time I was on an aircraft, and then we had the Bill of Rights. Was that what it was called?
GI
Bill of Rights. And so I enrolled at NYU and completed my college education. And I thought I was going to be a teacher, but after one experience, I decided, well, I actually took a civil service test, and I got a job with the Social Security Administration, and I worked for them for about 40 years.
When you were, God, I totally lost what I was going to say. When you were in the service, do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about the death of President Roosevelt?
I think I was on leave, and I'm pretty sure I was on leave, And of course it was a terrible shock to hear of his passing. I forget exactly where I was on leave, but I was on leave when I heard about it.
How about the dropping the atomic bombs?
I don't know where I was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how I heard it either. I think that when you remember, this was before TV, and
Yes.
Radio doesn't give you the same
Right.
impact that you might when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the World Trade Center when that was demolished. When you saw it, it made a great impact. But if you just heard about
Yes.
it, it would be minimal in terms of the impact. So, many of these historic events didn't have the impact that we have now when we see them on TV.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
I don't believe so.
You never have at all?
You mean the
The American Legion?
American Legion?
VFW.
No, I never did.
With the GI Bill, did you ever make use of the 5220 Club?
Only for 1 week. That's the unemployment.
Yes, yes.
Only 1 week, and I either had a job. Actually, I was raised by a single parent, my mother, for let's say from adolescent on, and so I had to go to work. So I went to school and I went to work, and so I was pretty busy.
Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
Yeah, for a while, but not for a long time. But not for long. I'm always a busy guy, moving ahead. I did have some friends that I would communicate with, but one friend was in Ohio, and the other friend that I had, he was in Virginia. But we really never saw each other once we parted.
How would you say your time in the service had an effect on your life?
Well, first of all, you met people, and you lived with people, and you ate with people from all parts of the country, and you got to see a lot of the United States. So I think it was very broadening. I really, when I look back at it, as being a very outstanding experience. I was in the Army for about almost 3 years, and I think I learned a lot. And but I was always someone who got along, so I didn't, feel disappointed about being in the Army for most of the time. And as I say, I got a chance to go to the University of California in Davis, even though it was just the radio repair. Nevertheless, it was a campus life.
Do you think you
for
would
6
have
months.
been able to go to college without the GI Bill?
I don't know. I know that when just before I was drafted, some college recruiter came up from Bluefield, West Virginia, and said he'd give me a scholarship because I was learning the drums at that time, and I wasn't a very good drummer, but I was learning. He saw the drums and he said, "Oh, we'll give you a scholarship." That's how I guess how desperately they were seeking people. Perhaps it was people from New York to give them sort of a diversity of a student body. But at any rate, so I think I was all set to go to Bluefield, West Virginia when I got drafted. But I would say that the Bill of Rights, the GI Bill of Rights, first of all, they paid for tuition, and then they also gave you some money, as I remember. It was something like $100 a month. And so that made it a lot easier for me because that money went to my mother to take care of the household expenses. So I think that was a great program. I don't know whether it's in effect now for veterans, but
Yes, it is.
it is. So I think it's a good thing for the country, and I think it's a good thing for the individual.
Now, you had a photograph of yourself?
Yeah, way back when I think I was about 18 or 19.
Now, do you remember where that was taken?
I'm getting a little bit of glare. If you can just change the angle.
Sure.
Yep, that's good. Just like that. That's fine.
It was taken out in California, and probably somewhere, maybe in L.A. One of the other things I did when I was out in California was that I'd go to elementary school with my Jeeps and give kids a ride in the Jeep, and that was one thing we did. And another thing we did was we tried to stimulate the purchase of war bonds, and I don't know what I did at that time, but I know I used the Jeep to go get around town and talk to people. But I know we did give elementary school kids rides in the Jeep around the playground. But it was an unusual experience. It's not, if you're not in the service, you just don't, you miss a good experience. Now, fortunately, I wasn't in active service other than protecting the West Coast.
Okay.
That it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.